You wondering if we should watch the Marvels movie? I thought it was okay. I went into it low expectations, but we'll talk about it.
Welcome to ByteSized Talks. I'm Jupe. This is Hempy.
All right, man. So I just watched the Marvels movie, and overall feeling walking out was it wasn't bad.
Okay.
Um, it wasn't bad. I went into it thinking this is going to be terrible.
I mean,
Like,
after Eternals, I mean, I'm not expecting anything out of Marvel at this point.
yeah, like I just didn't have good vibes about it. Um, I mean, I think the Captain Marvel movies have they only had the one? I think they've only had the one, right? Like for one standalone film.
I think so. Not sure.
Yeah. The fact that that's such a question, and it's been years for there not to be a
Yeah.
follow up. Like, um, but I went into this kind of knowing it wasn't going to be one of the grittier Marvel movies. That it was going to be more playful, maybe more like the Thor, Love and Thunder,
Yeah.
um, something along those lines. Uh, it I'll tell you this. So this is a no spoiler review. Um, I had fun for the first 75% of the movie.
Okay. How long
Like
was it?
it was an hour 45,
That's
just
not that
under.
bad for a Marvel movie. That's not that bad.
Yeah. So it was shorter, but I'll tell you, like the first 45 out, like the first 75%. So like the first hour, 15 hour and a half, like you're riding along with it. You're like, like okay, like that's kind of fun. Have you watched Miss Marvel at all?
The show?
There's a show called Miss Marvel.
No, I haven't gotten into. I got into Loki and another one. I can't remember what it's called, but not Miss Marvel.
You're low key into Loki way.
High key into Loki. That
Nice.
was a good show. It just had its finale this Thursday. It was a really good show. I recommend that one.
Now, I, I haven't followed any Marvel shows on Disney. Um, so WandaVision, I think the Falcon had
Yeah,
a
a show.
show with the Winter Soldier. She Hulk. Uh,
Yeah,
I looked like the Secret Invasion, right? Like
Secret
that.
Invasion. Yeah, I started to watch that. Haven't really gotten through it, but I watched WandaVision and Loki so far, and they're both pretty good. I couldn't get through She
Uh,
Hulk though. That wasn't a good one.
yeah, all of those. I feel like it's asking a lot
Yeah,
of a fan. I'm a fan of going to the movies. I've never considered myself like a comic book guy, so I never, I always appreciated at a I'd say probably fairly shadow depth. Like when they showed Thanos at
yeah,
the end of the first Avengers, I didn't know who the hell that was. I never even heard of Thanos. You know,
yeah.
um, so uh, I hadn't watched Miss Marvel,
Hmm.
um, but I could tell you that character, the girl who plays it, like brings such like a playful energy to it to kind of balance out Captain Marvel's like overly stoic character, and
Okay.
like she brought a fun element to the movie. So I could see, especially like a younger generation having fun with it. Um, but and I wasn't hating on it. I was like, yeah, you know what? Like it was nice, lighthearted fun. Um, like kind of like the sincerity that uh like that a young like a teenager could bring.
Yeah,
Not scorned by the world yet, very optimistic. Um, and just like this excitable energy.
yeah,
It was very reminiscent of young Spider-Man, Tom Holland's young Spider-Man, like
yeah,
trying to impress Tony Stark. You know,
yeah,
just like, well, Mr. Tony Stark, sir, just like geeking out all the time. Like it had very much those vibes. So I was like, like this,
yeah,
I can see why they kind of developed this, and um, but I felt the last 25% of the movie just kind of just kind of disintegrates.
Okay.
Um, uh, and it was just like the like I don't know. I just felt like they could have done more uh interplay to like the Marvels team effect, um and it just kind of left me like wanting more out of the like storyline development, because it just kind of like, oh hey, like that's what happened, like that's all that had to happen, like, and everything's just, we're gonna pretend like nothing else is scorned or happened, or
Yeah.
uh
So, I mean, phase 3, I think, is the one that just passed, and this is phase 4, right, of Marvel?
I'm not sure.
I think it's phase 4, but what do you miss about previous Marvel movies that is not being put out there now?
um what do I miss about the previous? Wow, that's a tough question. um I was like a reluctant fan to superhero movies.
Yeah.
um in the 90s, I was never a fan of the Batman movies. uh X-Men I always thought were the interesting but not great movies.
Yeah.
Honestly, it wasn't until I watched Iron Man, and like at this time I was already at somebody's house. I was like, hey, that was actually pretty good. I
Yeah.
think the first movie I watched in theaters that I really enjoyed was the first Thor. Um, Now I understand like that they're never going to be like overly gory or try to get ultra aggressive with the violence.
Yeah.
Um, like some of the like I feel like Deadpool tries to do that. Like they try to get a
Yeah.
little more head explosion type stuff, or try to get a little bit more aggressive with the violence. And I know DC definitely tries to do that
Oh, yeah.
to bring in a different side of it. Um, but I think kind of what I miss is just trying to make the best story without trying to push something else out, like an agenda.
Yeah.
And again, I understand bringing a balance to things and a perspective to things. Um, like seeing why there needs to be uh, maybe more women, portrayed within the superhero network,
Yeah.
right? Especially since at that point it doesn't need to be like, oh, he's stronger because he's a man, and men might have a biological, like they're just naturally stronger, right? Like
Yeah.
the world's strongest woman compared to the world's strongest man, like there is no like debating on who's actually physically stronger.
Stronger, yeah.
Yeah. But as soon as they're radioactive and they've been cosmically altered, right? Like all that stuff goes out of the way.
Yeah.
Um, I also feel like the original ones, first gen Marvel, the they it was the pre Disney era,
Yeah.
and that you didn't need to watch the Disney Plus shows to get the full effect.
Yeah, I think that's this problem I had of now is if you haven't watched any of the shows, I think, can't remember what movie came out right after WandaVision, but, there was a movie that came out right after that.
I think Doctor Strange.
I think so, yeah, and there was a reference to the show, and I was like, "What the fuck? What's the reference?" And
Yeah.
everybody was talking about it, so I went back and watched the show. I was like, "Oh, okay, so that's what they were referencing." And so now it's become something to where you have to dedicate more time to it. You have to be more into the shows to understand more of the backstory to it.
Yeah, like I'm willing to give them a couple hours a month. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
you get 2, 3 hours a month to tell your story to me, and I'll go every month to watch your new movie. But coming out with a show about a character who's like a Miss Marvel, this teenage character who like they're not looking. I don't think they're trying to get grown men to get into Marvel through Miss Marvel.
no, I
You
think
know,
at
this
this point they're trying to bring the new generation of Marvel out, is which is basically all the teenagers, all the young adults at this point, and so they're trying to, I guess, make this new team of Marvel and
yeah.
bring in the new generation.
Uh, I get that, but I wonder if it's because they don't want to pay these huge contracts anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like you know, like what would Chris Hemsworth demand for the next Thor movie? What would Chris Evans
Yeah.
demand for another Captain America? What would Robert Downey Jr. get to come back
I
as Iron Man?
Iron Man was
You
getting
know,
too expensive. That to kill him on the shit on the movies.
yeah, you know, he's gonna become Aluminum Man pretty soon. Like to go to like those like Mexican pinata knockoffs. You know, Ferric Man. Uh, um, so I think that's kind of what I miss. I kind of miss just the storylines. 'Cause again, in this one, like they kind of give a real quick like recap of like who Miss Marvel is. Like,
Yeah.
but I walked out and I watched the movie with my nephew and I was like, dude, do you know who she was? Like, I think there's a show. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know there was a show about her character. But
Yeah.
that being said, Miss Marvel to me was the best part of the movie. Like the energy she brought, um, just a real like fun character to the clashing between um, Captain Marvel and then the other Marvel part of the Marvels. They didn't like. I guess her name's like Photon or Spectrum, but
Hmm.
like she doesn't get a name in the movie.
She's
They
in the
flirt.
spectrum.
They flirt around with a bunch of movies or with a bunch of names, but like they never land on one. Um, and yeah, it just again the first if you I recommend you go watch it if you're on the fence about watching it, go watch it. Um, the first 75 minutes you're gonna be like, okay, like this is somewhat familiar. It's fun. There's little montages and stuff. It's um seeing like the whole like transfer of power thing, how they keep swapping places, like the way they play with that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Um, there's different fun elements that they bring in, but just the last part of it, you're just like, oh, you fumbled it. You got it to the 5 yard line, and then you turned it over. You know, like
So
honest,
what's your rating out of 10?
out of 10, I give it a 6 out of 10.
6 out of
Um,
10. All right.
yeah,
So
like
the critics for this gave it a 62%, which you're right on the money on, and the audience gave it an 85%.
again, I think if they would have tuned up the ending a little bit, I could easily see giving this 7.5, maybe an 8 out of 10. With like my favorite Marvel movies, like Endgame being like a 9.5. Like
Yeah.
um, but like, and I don't expect this to be on like it's not gonna touch the same fan base necessarily that like Iron Man did or
Yeah.
Thor, right? Like it's has just a younger superhero and Miss Marvel. It's very much pro woman. It's a different approach, and maybe they're looking at targeting a different sector of the
Yeah.
market. Um, but and then they took some chance like some creative chances. Like in the previews, I thought there was gonna be something like a Bollywood type scene, but like there's this community of like where they don't talk; they can only sing talk.
Okay.
So they couldn't
It's
be
kind
like,
of
"Oh,
weird.
hi." Yeah, they could never just say hi to someone. They had to be like, "Hello, how are you?" Right? Like, um, and I thought I would hate that part, but I was like, yeah, like no, wasn't bad. Like I like
Yeah.
um just like an Ant Man Quantumania, like drink the Jew, like the goo, right? Like then as soon as they drank
Yeah.
that, right, like they could hear everybody. Like
Yeah.
that was like a stupid little weird part, but I was like, okay. It
Yeah.
just having to do that part, they could have made it to where like everybody could understand each other, but you have to drink the goop, right, to understand. So I didn't have a problem with it, but I feel just the last bit, like to me, like someone could point to be like, oh yeah, there's a writer strike. They're definitely
For that last 25%, there was a writer's strike.
yeah, like that's what I would that's what I would chalk it up to. I honestly think you would expect it. I would expect that ending from a DC, but not a Marvel movie.
Yeah. Yeah, Marvel has set
Yeah,
the bar high, and now they have to meet those expectations.
yeah. Um, so yeah, that's what I have for that without saying any spoilers or doing anything. about that. Maybe we should do a take where we kind of talk about some of the stuff. But I think that
Yeah.
you'll have to watch that. You'll have to watch it before we.
Oh, we should watch the Radical movie and then talk about that one.
If I, can, I don't think it's playing in my area. I could check the other theater, but
Yeah, once it comes out on the streaming
yeah,
platform or something, we should make a review on that one.
yeah.
I've heard it's really good.
But that's what we got for this video. If you guys haven't already, hit that like button. If you want to see more movie reviews, go ahead and hit subscribe so that way it pops up on your feed. Got anything else, Julian?
No, I think that's it. Movie that Gary recommended to me was Red Dragon. I really enjoyed that movie. So
Yeah. So yeah, we'll have to talk. We'll break those down in another video.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, take care, everybody. Have a good
Yeah.
weekend.
Bye.